Makanami was a Yūgumo-class destroyer in service with the Imperial Japanese Navy. Her name translates to overflowing waves or rolling wave. Throughout her career, she primarily conducted troop transport operations, punctuated by several notable events. The Yūgumo-class was essentially a refined version of the earlier Kagero-class, featuring modest upgrades to enhance anti-aircraft defense. Each vessel carried a complement of 228 officers and enlisted personnel. They were 119.17 meters or 391 feet in length overall, with a beam of 10.8 meters or 35 feet 5 inches and a draft of 3.76 meters or 12 feet 4 inches. Standard displacement was 2,110 metric tons, increasing to 2,560 metric tons at full load. Power came from two Campon-geared steam turbines, each connected to a single propeller shaft, fed by three Campon water tube boilers. These turbines produced 52,000 shaft horsepower, enabling a top speed of 35 knots. The Yūgumo-class destroyers were armed with 6 Type 327mm or 5-inch guns, arranged in 3 twin turrets, 2 aft in a superfiring configuration, and 1 forward of the superstructure. Though the guns could elevate to 75 degrees for anti-aircraft use, their effectiveness was limited due to a slow rate of fire, sluggish traverse, and the absence of a high-angle fire control system, rendering them nearly useless against aircraft. Initially outfitted with 4 Type 96 25mm or 1.0-inch anti-aircraft guns in 2 twin mounts, the number of these guns increased throughout the war. For offensive capability, the ships featured 8 24-inch torpedo tubes housed in 2 quadruple rotating mounts, with 1 reload provided per tube. Anti-submarine warfare equipment included 2 depth charge throwers, supported by a stock of 36 depth charges. Makanami was completed on August 18, 1942, and initially assigned to operate alongside the destroyer Naganami. Between September 6th to 10th, she escorted the battleships Kongo and Haruna from Kure to Truk, then remained on patrol duty around Truk for the rest of the month. On October 13th to 14th, she escorted Kongo and Haruna during their shelling of Henderson Field, repeating the task for the heavy cruisers Miyoko and Maya 2 days later. During the Battle of Santa Cruz on October 26th, Makanami operated as an escort for Japanese carriers. From November 3rd to 5th, she accompanied the heavy cruisers Maya and Suzuya to the Shortland Islands. Between November 7th to 10th, she carried out 2 troop transport missions to Guadalcanal, then took part in escorting Japanese troop transports during the naval Battle of Guadalcanal. During this mission, 7 transports were lost, and Makanami rescued 1,020 survivors from the sunken Arizona Maru. On November 24th, she escorted a major convoy bound for the Shortlands. On November 30th, Makanami was one of 8 Japanese destroyers assigned to a supply drum delivery mission when they were suddenly intercepted by an American cruiser force during the operation. As the U.S. ships opened fire, the destroyer Kagero, positioned ahead of Makanami, lost contact with the main group and veered off course, with Makanami following close behind. This diversion prevented both destroyers from participating in the primary torpedo attacks launched by Takanami, Oyashio, Kuroshio, Kawakaze, and Naganami. During the clash, Takanami was sunk, while American heavy cruisers USS Minneapolis, New Orleans, and Pensacola were heavily damaged by torpedo hits. Meanwhile, the light cruiser USS Honolulu was forced to maneuver away to avoid incoming torpedoes. However, the heavy cruiser USS Northampton broke formation and turned northwest, advancing alone to confront the Japanese destroyers. This maneuver placed her directly in the sights of Makanami and Kagero, who had also turned northwest and still had torpedoes ready. Spotting the lone American vessel, both destroyers launched their remaining long-lance torpedoes to port, targeting the last U.S. cruiser, and achieved the most decisive strike of the engagement. 2 torpedoes slammed into Northampton's port side near the aft section. One obliterated her engine room, while the other struck just aft of turret 3. The impacts ignited fuel tanks, disabled 3 of her 4 propeller shafts, and left the ship immobilized and engulfed in flames. Listing 10 degrees almost immediately, the cruiser's damage control teams were soon overwhelmed by flooding and fire, prompting the order to abandon ship. Over the next 3 hours, Northampton sank stern first, with 50 of her crew lost in the process. Makanami continued to carry out supply drum missions through the month of December and resumed the same operations throughout January 1943. On February 1st, she participated in the evacuation of Guadalcanal, during which she was severely damaged by near-miss bomb blasts that left her dead in the water. She was subsequently towed to Truk, and following emergency patchwork repairs, managed to limp back to Maizuru under her own power, where she remained docked for extensive repairs until September 15th. Following the completion of her repairs, Makanami set sail for Shanghai, and between September 24th and October 5th, escorted a major troop convoy to Rabaul, returning to Truk on October 9th. From October 17th to 26th, she joined the combined fleet in a sortie intended to counter American carrier raids, though no engagement occurred and the force withdrew back to Truk. On November 6th, Makanami supported a troop transport mission to Bougainville, and after U.S. carrier strikes near Rabaul, she towed the damaged destroyer Naganami to safety for repairs. On November 19th, she participated in a transport operation to Garove Island, and 3 days later, provided cover for another troop run to Buka. On the night of November 24th to 25th, 1943, Makanami was conducting a troop evacuation mission to Buka Island, unaware that danger was near. Captain Arleigh Burke, recently victorious at the Battle of Empress Augusta Bay, where his forces sank the destroyer Hatsukaze, had detected Makanami and her companion, the destroyer Onami, using radar. Aboard his flagship, the destroyer USS Charles Osborne, he led USS Claxton and USS Dyson in a high-speed approach through poor weather to spring an ambush. Undetected, the American destroyers closed in and fired torpedoes. Several struck Onami, which exploded and sank instantly with no survivors. Makanami was hit by 1 torpedo, which knocked out her electrical systems and left her dead in the water, listing 20 degrees to port. Burke's ships pressed on and engaged other targets, with Charles Osborne successfully sinking the destroyer Yūgumo. Meanwhile, the crippled Makanami was left behind until the arrival of USS Spence and USS Converse, whose gunfire sealed her fate. Makanami quickly sank under the barrage, taking most of her crew with her, though 29 survivors escaped on a lifeboat and made it to shore. The battle marked a major success for the U.S. Navy and was later hailed as an almost perfect action, earning Captain Burke the Navy Cross for his leadership. It was the final surface naval engagement of the Solomon Islands campaign and the last of its kind in the broader Pacific theater for the next 9 months. While the Japanese managed to land their troops and evacuate support personnel, they suffered the loss of 3 destroyers and had 1 more damaged, all without causing any American casualties. Among the Japanese crews, 647 sailors were killed in action. The submarine I-177 rescued 279 survivors from the destroyer Yūgumo, while an additional 11 were picked up by the submarine I-181. The sinkings were just another significant blow to the Japanese destroyer force in the Second World War.